good for
Yeah,
one of
I was
those
going to
nice.
say, and y'all are from the past.
Okay, let's sit under. Yes,
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Till I come marching home. Don't go walking down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't go walking down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me. Till I come marching home. I just got word from a girl who heard from the girl next door to me. The guy she met just loves to pet, and it fits you to a T. So don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Till I come marching home. I told my father, and now I'm writing to you. I'm sure I'm sure of Father. Now I want to be sure of you. Don't start counting the stars above with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't start singing those songs of love. We'll do them in harmony when I come marching home. Wrap your kisses in cellophane. Don't give them away for free. Keep them exclusively. Salted away for me. Yes, yes, yes. I'm on record. I'm talking plain. I'm getting a third degree when I come marching home. I told the gang, the whole shebang, that you were sweet and true. They ran right in and came right back with a photograph of you. So don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Till I come marching, I come marching, till I come marching home.
Thank you so much from Laverne and Maxine and Patricia. The Andrews sisters were a singing group in the swing boogie woogie era, made up of three real sisters, Laverne, Maxine, and Patricia. They first came to attention in the late 1930s, but were still popular in 1949 when Sharp Memorial came to be. Some of their most popular songs were, though, during World War II. And we would like to share a couple of those. The first one we did, Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree. And our second one is Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. You saw him earlier. All right, chord.
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie sound that no one else could play. He was a top man at his craft. And then his number came up and he was on with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowing melody. He's a boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The the next day the cat went out and drafted a band, and now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A root, a toot, a tootly out, a toot, he blows into the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the basic guitar is played with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. He was some boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. He puts the boys to sleep with boogie every night. He wakes them up the same way in the early bright. They clap their hands and stomp their feet, because they know how he plays. When someone gives him a beat, he really breaks it up when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A root, a toot, a tootly out, a toot, he blows into the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless a basic guitar is played with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B.
Thank you.
That was gooder than good.
Some of you will remember when I told you I was wearing many hats.
Yeah.
I'm back to MC now. We are very pleased to have Shirley Miller here to talk to us this afternoon. Mrs. Miller served as First Lady of Georgia from 1991 to 1999. As First Lady, she established programs to fight breast cancer, raise awareness for adult literacy, and promote child immunizations. Prior to serving as First Lady, Shirley had a successful career as a banker and entrepreneur. She has worked as an editor of a newspaper and proprietor of a women's clothing store. Oh, more than one, women's clothing stores. In 1965, she entered the banking business. By 1984, she was one of only 3 female bank presidents in Georgia. She started Mountain Savings and Loan in Hiawassee, which is now a part of the financial institution known as United Community. She resigned her position when her husband became governor. She was appointed by President Jimmy Carter to the President's Committee on Mental Retardation and by President George W. Bush to the Commission on Presidential Scholars. Shirley has served on numerous boards for organizations such as the Woodruff Arts Center, Georgia Center, Citizens for the Arts, and the Young Harris College Alumni Association. She currently serves as the chairperson on the Board of Trustees of the Zell Miller Foundation. Closer to home, Mrs. Miller is a graduate of Young Harris College. She was married for 64 years to the former governor and U.S. Senator Zell Miller. She resides in Young Harris and has been a longtime member at Sharp Memorial Methodist Church. She will be speaking to us today about Sharp Memorial's first pastor, Reverend Dow Kirkpatrick. Please, a round of applause for Shirley Miller.
Thank you, Miss Jackie, for those kind words, and it's good to be with all of you this afternoon. And I want us to go back in time. Go back in time with me. A story about one man and a building. I want to talk about the extraordinary man who built this church, the Reverend Dr. Dow Kirkpatrick. Born in Southern Illinois in 1917, Reverend Kirkpatrick obtained what was known as an exhorter's license at the tender age of 13. Thereafter, he completed his undergrad degree at Asbury College in Wilmore, Kentucky, where he met his wife, Marjorie. He continued at the Candler School of Theology at Emory in Atlanta and followed with his doctorate from Drew University in Madison, New Jersey. Drew had been started in the early 1800s as a seminary. A Navy chaplain in the Pacific during World War II, after that war, he pursued postdoctorate studies in England and Scotland at 3 universities: Oxford University, the University of Edinburgh, and the University of Cambridge. In 1947, this Reverend began to serve as ministers to a series of Georgia congregations. His first assignment was the Methodist congregation here in Young Harris, which had been started by Artemus Lester in 1886, and then was meeting for services in the Susan Beverly Harris Chapel, which was built by her husband, Judge Young L.G. Harris. Bertie, my mother-in-law, and I think I can quote her, always was saying, "The church sent Dow here to build Sharp Memorial." End of quote by Bertie. Over many years, I heard of the crew of local men who cut the pines, cleared the land for the church and the parsonage. I can remember most, if not all, of their names. Zell Miller was one of them at 17 years old. When together, these men would talk about the Reverend Kirkpatrick and their experience about the building of this building that we are enjoying today. So Dr. Kirkpatrick was the pastor here as this building came out of the ground and was dedicated in 1949. Reverend Kirkpatrick would finish the transition from the chapel here. He left Sharp for First Methodist in Athens. He was 32 years old. From 1957 until 1962, the Reverend Kirkpatrick was the senior minister at St. Mark United Methodist Church in Atlanta. In 1958, Reverend Kirkpatrick co-founded with an English minister the Oxford Institute of Methodist Theological Studies, located near John Wesley's home. It is an affiliate of the World Methodist Council. The Institute's mission is to foster and support the ordained and lay scholars who attend its meetings. This year, 2024, the meeting will be held in Sweden. Having grown over time, I found where a meeting had been held at Lake Junaluska Methodist Facility near us in western North Carolina. Reverend Kirkpatrick's next appointment was in 1962 until 1974 at First Methodist Church in Evanston, Illinois, a Chicago suburb and home of Northwestern University. This, I have read, is considered by many Methodist clergy as one of the premier pulpits in this country. While Dr. Kirkpatrick was in Evanston, he became chairman of the commission that reorganized the Methodist Church. This was in 1967, another major contribution to the church. After his time in Illinois, Reverend Kirkpatrick served as a missionary in South America from 1975 until his retirement in 1987. He also wrote, edited, and compiled a number of scholarly books and publications concerning Methodist doctrine and theology. He died in Atlanta in 2004 and was interred at Asbury College in Kentucky next to his wife. Now let me share with you some of what was written about Dr. Kirkpatrick. Writer Kay Powell of the Atlanta Constitution, and I quote, "Dr. Dow Kirkpatrick, pastor of Atlanta's St. Mark United Methodist Church, 1957 till 1962, preached racial harmony and social justice from the pulpit and beyond, undeterred by the threats. Bishop Joseph Sprague of Chicago said, and I quote, "United Methodism has lost one of its greatest voices." The Reverend Martin Depp of Chicago said this about our Reverend, and I quote, "His Evanston, Illinois years were marked by controversy, not just over civil rights and the Vietnam War, but what it means to be faithful. He stretched us. He pulled some people kicking and screaming into the future." End of the quote. The Chicago Tribune had in 1975 described the Reverend Kirkpatrick as a tall, sunny dispositioned man whose belief was that action was more important than the social debates of the day. About ending his active ministry in Latin America, what his son Kip said of this period deserves note. Kip's quote, "He wanted to go to Latin America and to figure out what was unique about these people who are poor but have a vibrant and vital faith. He wanted to bring that back to the United States." End of Kip's words. The Reverend Jimmy Moore, pastor at St. Mark in 2004, the year of Dr. Kirkpatrick's death, said, and I quote, "He helped draft the Minister's Manifesto in 1957. That document, signed by 80 ministers in Atlanta, is credited with helping the city of Atlanta desegregate peacefully. It is believed that St. Mark was the first Methodist church in Atlanta and probably in the state of Georgia to receive black members. He was one of the great leaders of our generation," unquote. Georgia Bishop Bevel Jones, who was a pretty often visitor to young Harris, both to the college and here, said at that time, and I quote Bishop Jones, "He kept us alert. He kept us honest. He kept us focused on justice as love distributed. Dow's emphasis was integrity. He believed you had to be consistent between belief and action. If you believed it, you had to live it." Methodist founder John Wesley had said, "I look upon the world as my parish," and Dow lived that out. Dow's parish was the world. He wanted us to see Christianity through the eyes of the poor. End of Bishop Jones's remarks. A great and courageous man of our denomination planted this church in this valley. To us all here, I hope Dr. Kirkpatrick's faith and courage inspires us. Let me leave you with one personal anecdote about our subject. In reply to correspondence from Dow Kirkpatrick II, known as Kip, my husband Zell wrote, and I quote, "I remember your father with so much love and respect. I have always considered Dow Kirkpatrick to be one of the most impressive men I've ever known. I remember with great admiration this distinguished man behind a mule operating a scoop shovel on that parsonage hill when the house was being built." End of Zell's quote. Zell's words still touch me. I can see in my mind's eye an image of a man behind a mule with a scoop shovel on that hill. I, as a student in 1952, first learned about the Reverend Dr. Kirkpatrick. Though he is gone from our valley, I have come to realize what a gifted and unique individual he was. I knew he was special and beloved. When the Reverend came to preach or visit, It was a special occasion here at Sharp. Thank you for having me today and letting me talk to you about the Reverend Kirkpatrick.